If you play Simulation Madden Franchise and you take the preseason even remotely seriously, then you've probably noticed that EA has not bothered to change preseason substitution logic since the NFL shortened the preseason to 3 games instead of 4. This means that the third preseason game in Madden is still treated as the old dress rehearsal, with the starters playing through the third quarter. This is not how the NFL teams play the third game of the preseason anymore. Now the starters maybe play through the first quarter, if at all. Instead, coaches now use the third and final preseason game to field test their rookies and deep reserves before the final cut days. But in Madden 26, the CPU leaves its starters in through the third quarter. If you want to sub in your backups, as you should, you put yourself at a huge disadvantage, and their relative poor play can even result in loss of morale that can hurt their overall ratings and their long-term development. Because I do take the preseason seriously as a team development tool in Madden, the third preseason game might very well be the single most infuriating thing about recent Madden games for me. I hate it. Not only is it horribly unfair due to the talent level imbalance if I try to sub deep reserves in early, but I swear the CPU also goes into Robo or Turbo mode and throws downfield every friggin' play in this particular game. Worse yet, being that I play the Bears, I keep getting my third preseason game scheduled against the Bills. Even though the Bills actually have one of the highest run percentages in the NFL, the Bills in Madden seem to be allergic to running the football. Now, granted, quite a few of those runs are probably unscripted scrambles by Josh Allen, but still. In any case, in my Madden preseason games, Josh Allen puts up 400 yards passing and 5 TDs in 3 quarters, and it's so fucking infuriating, and it makes me want to stop playing Madden altogether. EA has provided no settings or options to change the CPU's behavior, nor mechanics for making the CPU intelligently substitute its reserves for evaluation or development, and we cannot change CPU depth charts even for these supposedly meaningless preseason games. As such, it always comes down to us, the community, to try to fix the things that EA refuses to fix or is too incompetent to fix. Whether that be custom slider sets, disabling broken features when possible, updating rosters to fix player ratings, or providing house rules for running our own franchises. In this video, I want to share a method for forcing CPU substitutions early in the third preseason game with minimal cheating. Basically, what we're going to be doing is using a second controller to take partial control over the CPU teams. Ideally, we would be able to start the match with the CPU controlling the team, then pause the game at specific points in the match to switch to user control, make the depth chart substitutions, then switch control back to the CPU. Unfortunately, we can't do this. Old Madden's games used to let us be able to do this sort of thing because we used to be able to change controller assignments mid-match. But ever since EA redesigned franchise mode to be an online mode, the ability to reassign controllers mid-match is gone, even in solo offline franchise play. So we have to keep control of the CPU team on the second controller for the whole match. But I don't have 4 hands, so how do I play both my team and the CPU team? Well, luckily, we don't entirely have to. The key to this is a little used accessibility setting called Auto Pass. This setting causes the CPU to control the QB after the snap if the user does not make any inputs after snapping the football. As soon as the match begins, simply pause the game with the second controller, go to settings, and turn Auto Pass on for the second controller, and only for the second controller. Unless you also use Auto Pass, which is fine. With this setting enabled, all you have to do is use the second controller to select a play for the CPU team and then press the button for them to snap the ball. You can do all of this while maintaining control of your team. If you don't want to know what plays the CPU is running, you can keep the CPU play selection menu on Coach Suggestions, then just close your eyes, wiggle the stick up and down a few times, and then press a random face button. Then go ahead and open your eyes and pick your play, wait for the teams to line up, and press the button on the second controller for the CPU to snap the ball, and bam! You'll now be playing against a mostly CPU-controlled opponent with little to no foreknowledge of what plays they'll be calling. When it's time to pull the starters, you can now pause the game with the second controller and adjust the CPU team depth chart to your heart's content. Sadly, there isn't a mass substitution button in Madden like there is in the college football game, so you'll have to go through the tedious process of subbing backups into every CPU position. But hey, at least your third stringers won't always be getting torched by the CPU's elite superstar starters anymore. Now, there are a few key limitations and problems with this method that I outlined. The most apparent is that you'll have to kick for the CPU teams too. As far as I know, kicking cannot be automated. You can maybe change the kick meter settings for the second controller to be easier if you want. Another problem is that the CPU teams won't do any pre-play audibles, hot routes, manual motion, or other strategic adjustments unless you manually do it for them. But it is preseason, and it's the third and final preseason game, and most NFL teams tend to keep preseason game plans simple, especially in the third preseason game when they're only playing deep reserves who don't have the extensive knowledge and practice with the playbooks that the starters might have. So the lack of advanced pre-play adjustments might actually maybe be more realistic. I don't know. Maybe. It's possible. Lastly, the CPU runner might occasionally just stop running due to lack of user input. This tends to happen if the CPU runner breaks a tackle, and sometimes receivers will stop running after catching a pass. This is the most potentially game-breaking issue, but in my experience, it hasn't been a huge deal. You can always try picking up the second controller when this happens if you want, and take control of the CPU teams yourself. Again, if you want. But really, it just means that you're not going to have big breakaway plays, but the CPU will still be able to move the ball and will still potentially be able to score. And might even surprise you with the big play here and there. And even if the CPU isn't competitive, then hey, whatever, it's just the third preseason game after all. The whole point was to pull out starters early, maybe even after the first drive, and get some experience with your backups and deep reserves. And when your third and fourth stringers and rookies are playing in the fourth quarter, they will actually be evenly matched with the CPU's third and fourth stringers, instead of still seeing X factors lining up against you. Heck, I wouldn't blame you if you used this method in all preseason games in order to ensure that CPU's teams sub deeper into their depth chart than just the second string. It's your game. As long as you're playing in good faith and having a good time, who am I or anyone else to judge? Now, if you start doing this in a playoff game, well, then that's probably cheating. But hey, again, if you're playing offline single player, who am I to judge? It would be nice if EA would actually implement mechanics for CPU teams to intelligently play their deeper reserves in preseason games so that we users don't have to rely on cheating to make the video game look and play like actual NFL football. In fact, years ago, I proposed an idea for a new progression and evaluation mechanic to accomplish just that, and I've referred to it multiple times in other videos that I've made since. Sadly, no football game has attempted anything like it, at least not yet. Maybe someday. This entire preseason match against the Bills, by the way, that I was highlighting in this video, is actually available to patrons on my sister Let's Play channel, MegaBearsFan_plays. If you're curious to see it, along with other earlier exclusive content, please consider becoming a patron for just $1 or $2 a month. My channel is not monetized at all due to all the copywritten content that I use under fair use, nor do I have any corporate sponsors, which is why you don't get ad reads in the middle of these videos. So every patron makes a big difference, and I truly appreciate all of my patrons, past, present, and future, and I hope that maybe someday you'll join them.